Before I get into the update for today, I first just want to say one thing, that this could end badly. Now that I got that out of the way, let's start off by saying what the United States is planning on doing. According to President Biden, we cannot see a ceasefire in Gaza. That cannot happen because according to President Biden, he says a ceasefire is not peace. But at the same time, we now know the United States is considering a tactical recovery operation to retrieve about 240 hostages, which could potentially include about 10 U.S. citizens from Gaza, from Hamas control. Now, that is where things could go very badly. Now, I want to show you a few things. First off, President Biden said today that as long as Hamas clings to its ideology of destruction, a ceasefire is not peace. That's what he said. Now, he went on to also state, our goal should not be simply to stop the war for today. It should be to end the war forever. Break the cycle of unceasing violence and build something stronger in Gaza and across the Middle East so that history does not keep repeating itself. That's what President Biden said. Now, I want to break that down because if our goal is to not just stop the war for today, it is to end the war forever, then this means to end Hamas forever. And if the United States is a contributor to ending Hamas, what is Iran's thinking of that? What would Iran's reaction or retaliation towards the United States be? Well, we don't know. This is why I'm telling you, this could end very badly. Now, President Biden also had this to say. Look at this. He says if Hamas cared at all for Palestinian lives, it would release all the hostages, give up arms, and surrender the leaders and those responsible for October 7th. Do we think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. What we have been hearing over the past few days is that Hamas is asking Israel for a ceasefire. They wanted a 5-day ceasefire and they would release 70 hostages, mostly women, children, elderly, and those that are sick. Then they decided to go back on that, and instead of a 5-day ceasefire and 70 hostages, just a 3-day ceasefire and 50 hostages. Again, women, children, elderly, and those that are sick. That was it. And even though Israel and Gaza get very close to this agreement that yes, we are going to do a ceasefire, it gets right to the end and then it gets called off. So the Biden administration is saying that I don't think a ceasefire is going to work. But here's why some are saying that we cannot do this. A ceasefire is just out of the question. Because again, President Biden stated a ceasefire is not peace. But what's happening right now and what Hamas is concerned with is Israel has already stated that they are hoping to take back control. They will govern the area. Well, here's what President Biden says. President Biden says, revitalized Palestinian Authority should eventually govern Gaza and the West Bank. Now, I bring this up and I want to read you a few things. I'm going to read you this first. It says, as we strive for peace, Gaza and the West Bank should be reunited under a single governance structure, ultimately under a revitalized Palestinian Authority, as we all work towards a two-state solution. I have been emphatic with Israel's leaders that extremist violence against Palestinians in the West Bank must stop, and that those committing the violence must be held accountable. He also went on to add, the United States is prepared to take our own steps, including issuing visa bans against extremists attacking civilians in the West Bank. That's not all the United States is planning on doing either, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Biden also noted that an outcome that leaves Hamas in control of Gaza would once more perpetuate its hate and deny Palestinian civilians the chance to build something better for themselves. Ultimately, that's the goal. Is can the Palestinian people create something better, a better life than what they had before October 7th? And many people believe they can. But They do not need Israel in there to do it. Now, here's what I want, something else I want to read you. Okay? This is from Reuters. It says, without a post-war plan, Israel's risk a bloody insurgency in Gaza. And it goes on to say, Israel risks facing a long and bloody insurgency if it defeats Hamas and occupies Gaza without a credible post-war plan to withdraw its troops and move towards the creation of a Palestinian state, U.S. and Arab officials, diplomats, and analysts say. Now, here's the other thing. They are now, experts and analysts are now saying that what Israel is planning to do and without a post-war plan, that is very similar to what the United States did when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay? That is very similar. The United States went in without really a plan. Okay? And that is something they're saying we cannot see happen again. Now, here's the big news. The U.S. is considering tactical recovery plans for hostages in Gaza. The reason why this is the big news, and I'm going to get to more on this in just a second, is simply because if the United States decides to put itself into this tactical operation, that is going to show Iran that we are widening the war. We're jumping in. And Iran is going to potentially jump in as well. This is where things could end very badly. I want to read you this. It says the U.S. is keeping all options on the table as negotiations to free scores of hostages in Gaza press on, playing a significant role in advancing talks between Israel and Hamas, while actively formulating plans with international partners for tactical recovery operations that could be put into action if it's determined they could be carried out with a reasonable level of risk, according to two American officials. Now, on Friday, President Biden spoke with Emir of Qatar to discuss the urgent need for all hostages held by Hamas to be released without further delay. Now, the thing that I was most concerned with is if the United States is planning this tactical recovery operation, how involved is the United States going to be? Are we going to send U.S. military personnel into the area, put boots on the ground? And if we do, what are other countries going to say? Well, here's what we have learned. It says U.S. military or law enforcement personnel would not necessarily be involved in actually carrying out such operation, as foreign forces have often carried out plans developed in partnerships with their American counterparts in the past. So it's saying, and this is where it's key, it says not necessarily. It doesn't mean they will, it doesn't mean they won't. It says they would not necessarily be involved. That's the key. That's the key to all this. Is if the United States can help and put together a tactical recovery operation in conjunction with another a partnership with somebody. That's what we have to do. If we put boots on the ground in Gaza, that could be devastation because of what Iran could potentially do, because of what other countries could do. Again, the whole world is looking at the United States, looking at the situation between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. And they're questioning whether or not the United States is involved. What are we doing? We're sending weapons and money and additional humanitarian aid to Gaza. Are we helping Israel? Are we helping the Palestinian people? What are we doing? And this is why we're seeing all these different protests here in the United States. Because people are asking the exact same question. What role does the United States play in this current war? So, just wanted to fill you in on what's happening at this time, because one of the things that we are concerned with is Iran. And Iran continues to make multiple threats against the United States. And that is something that we just can't have. So, as we get more information on this, I promise I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates. But that is what we know as of right now. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.